What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the MP Ultra thrust with the Maketoys Jetstream, both versions of a masterpiece scale thrust. So thanks to Dr. Diecast for sending his copy of the Maketoys figure. This came out back in June of 23, and this guy just came out in August of 24, so a little over a year apart. And this one, it was kind of a special thing because Maketoys had been gone for a very long time. Suddenly they came back with the Jetstream and Booster, their version of Thrust and Ramjet. So the first new figure in a very long time from Maketoys. And I thought it'd be cool to compare these. Now this one is somewhat of a KO, at least some people are calling it a KO, because the main body is MP52 Starscream. And then they've redesigned the entire head, the wings, the side pieces here, and some of the backpack. But the rest of it is MP52, so just keep that in mind. Now, I figured it was worth doing a comparison just because we don't have a lot of thrusts. We have the MP-11 mold thrust that came out a while ago. And then we have the iGear thrust, which is really old. So I figured this is worthwhile since we don't have that many of these. I try to be as objective as possible when I do these, but of course there's subjectivity involved when you're comparing stuff like this. So if I pick one, you prefer the other, then you win. I really try to do these to help people decide what they want with their collection, even if that means getting both of them. With that being said, let's get started. We'll start off with accessories. All right, here are the accessories, and right away, I don't have the Maketoys accessories. Dr. Diecast forgot to send them. So I'm just going to pull up the listing from TF Source that shows what it comes with, and we'll kind of compare them here. So they both come with these covers for the null rays, which TF Source calls cluster bombs, so we'll count those even. They both come with blast effects. Now the MP Ultra comes with the blast effects for the engines or the feet in robot mode, whereas the Maketoys comes with the blast effects for the null rays. They both come with a stand and adapter for jet mode. So the Maketoys has a jet mode adapter that kind of covers the bottom of the jet, whereas the MP Ultra just comes with this piece that plugs in. And then both have the stand included. And what we're left with is we got a couple faces. We have two faces for MP Ultra, and the Maketoys has 5 faces. So just by a hair, we're going to give the accessories over to Maketoys. They've got more faces. They also have some other accessories. They have the wing fillers for their version of Starscream, but that's not an accessory for this figure, so we're not going to count that here. All right, next we'll talk about the gimmicks on these two. And they both have the spinning vertical takeoff blades there. The MP Ultra has opening chest with, missiles underneath there. The Maketoys, it does open, but there's nothing in there. It wasn't meant for that. It's just part of the transformation. So we'll have one extra one here for the Maketoys. For the MP Ultra. And then they both have the opening cockpit. The MP Ultra has a little bit of detail in that cockpit, but because they've got the extra missiles there on the chest, I'm going to give Gimmicks over to MP Ultra. All right, next we'll take a look at the cartoon accuracy and the sculpt. When it comes to cartoon accuracy, we'll put the image up there so you can take a look for yourself. And I actually found 2 different images. There's a standard and then an alternate. And the shade of red is different. It's a little bit lighter in the alternate one. And that's closer to this one. But the original is closer to this one, a little bit darker. Both of them are a little off with the shade, but I'm going to give them kind of a tie on the shade of color just because there are 2 different versions out there. Now, when it comes to the actual, detailing, I think Maketoys got the color better for the gray. This one did all black instead of gray. I like how it looks, but it doesn't look like what it does in the cartoon, right? It's more of a grayish color. We also both have the yellow here in the shoulder pylons. The Maketoys went with the silver cockpit, whereas the MPU went unpainted translucent. It does end up looking a little bit silver, but I think the Maketoys got a little bit closer with that silver there. And then as far as the head sculpt, both of them are pretty good. I think this one's a little more fatter and wider, whereas the Maketoys is a little more skinnier and taller. So I think, again, Maketoys with the darker face and with the taller head, a little bit more accurate. So I'm going to give cartoon accuracy over to Maketoys. When it comes to Sculpt, both pretty clean from the front, both pretty clean from the sides. You come to the back, that's where everything, all hell breaks loose. They're both not great, but I would argue that Maketoys has more kibble back here. Just the way they decided to do the nose cone and these panels and these panels, and these are sometimes loose. Actually, a lot of things on this figure are loose. We'll talk about that when we get to build. But there are just a lot of things sitting on the back. This one, nothing is like loose or this. You'll see later, but some of the kibble kind of gets in the way. So I'm just going to give Sculpt over to MP Ultra. I think it's a little bit cleaner and a little bit less bothersome with the kibble. All right, next we'll talk about the paint and the build on these two guys. When it comes to paint, it's kind of a no-brainer. The MP Ultra is fully painted and looks really good. It's nice clean lines on the paint as well. The Maketoys has a very little paint, a little bit of yellow here. The face, a little bit of purple, white, and some accents here, and then the silver on the toes. The MP Ultra, like I mentioned, is fully painted. So we're going to give paint over to MP Ultra. When it comes to the build quality, again, MP Ultra is really solid in both the robot mode and in the alt mode. There are a couple little things like these rear wings, but the Maketoys is really floppy. I've tried to tighten these screws. The fingers just get in the way. They're really spindly. Some of these pieces like to fall down. It depends on your copy too, but some of them are okay, some of them are not. Just all sorts of little annoying things with the Maketoys. So we're going to give build quality over to MPU. All right, now let's take a look at the articulation. In order to do that, we'll look at each one individually. For MPU, the head is on a ball joint, so you get side to side, forward and backward, and a rotation. It does collide a little bit with these, but you can kind of get them out of the way. The shoulders can rotate around on a ratchet. Out to the side on this joint, but then you can also get this joint out. It's pretty tight, but it's ratcheted. I think that's a change, honestly. I'm not sure if there was a ratchet out to the side. Butterfly joint gets you all the way in, so you can get it across the chest. Rotation at the bicep. One thing I forgot to mention in my review is on the original MP52 mold, this elbow thing would come loose. This one doesn't, so they've fixed that apparently. We get a single jointed elbow. If you combine it with this back piece, you can get it double jointed. But you don't really need it because the bend goes all the way up to there. So that works. You have rotation in and out on the null ray. The wrist can rotate, move in and out. Individually articulated fingers at 2 pins. Thumb is on a ball joint and a pin. So you can pose those fully. No waist swivel. You have an ab crunch that gets you down to there. All the pieces are connected, so as you do it, it kind of moves everything together. For the legs, you have hip skirts on the front and the side. Legs will kick up to there on a ratchet. Back to here, yeah, definitely hindered by all this backpack pieces. And then out to the side, you had to get this hip skirt down and in here, but you can get the leg out to there. Rotation at the thigh around a universal. Single digit knee gets you past 90 degrees due to the sculpt. Ankle tilt, forward and backward. And there you go for MPU. And things are pretty tight on this guy, so I just reaffirmed my build score. For Maketoys, the head is on a ball joint, goes down to there, up to there, and side to side. Actually has a built-in joint inside, so you get way up. So it's in addition to the ball joint, you have this joint here. So that's creative. Rotation around, so you do get a little bit extra here on this. You have a neck joint. Rotation at the shoulder, but very poorly done. The detents are way too far apart. So this is the first position. That's the second position. You can't put it in the middle. That's really silly. I remember complaining about that when it came out. The null ray will do the same thing. You can pull it in and out. You can rotate it. Rotation of the bicep. You have a double jointed elbow, gets you the full bend. Rotation at the wrist. You do have articulated fingers, but they are really spindly and like to just get away from you. But it does have the same full articulation. Ball joint for thumb with a pin, and then the other fingers are all on 2 pins. For the waist, you have a waist swivel, and you can see things are starting to come apart. You have ab crunch. It's a double jointed ab crunch to get you way down. So double joint will give you that extra point there for Maketoys. Waist swivel also give them a point. It is very loose and annoying, but it does have the articulation. Hip skirts will move out of the way. Legs will kick up to there. And things start coming apart here. It's really annoying. There's a rear hip skirt, butt flap. Get that out of the way, and legs will go back to there. Out to the side on friction. Rotation of the thigh around universal. Double jointed knee gets you past 90 degrees. Ankle tilts out to there and back. You have a toe tilt forward and backward. This does have heel spurs, which I guess I forgot to rotate out. So you want these back for robot mode. But because of the double jointed elbows, double jointed ab crunch, and double jointed knees, we're going to give articulation over to Maketoys. Now, it doesn't not executed well, that great. It's got some problems, but I will give it to them just because they do have more articulation overall. Next, we'll talk about the transformation and engineering. When it comes to transformation, the Maketoys is really kind of a disaster. Things are just flopping all over the place, and I really don't like how they did the inner chest and the hands, having to move these panels back and forth. MPU is basically the same as MP52 minus some of the annoyance with the backpack, so they've kind of made it better. So I'm going to give transformation over to MPU. Engineering wise, I'm also going to give it to MPU. I think it cleans up a little bit better, and overall they've got the wings in the right spot, down lower, and having it attached to the leg versus having it attached to the backpack. It's a choice, but I do think it's better. So we're going to give engineering as well to MPU. Now let's talk about the alt modes here. And when it comes to the color scheme, I think Maketoys pretty much nailed it. They've got the gray with the maroon, whereas MPU, for whatever reason, decided to mix black and gray into their alt mode. That's definitely more accurate for the Maketoys. I also think overall, the silver on the cockpit looks better than the translucent. The translucent is more like a toy style cue. So I'm going to give the alt mode over to Maketoys. I do think it's got some problems. It's kind of floppy and the landing gear doesn't work and on and on. But I already dinged them for the point on the build quality. So I'm going to give alt mode over to Maketoys. All right, next we'll talk about the cost on these two. And since US retailers aren't carrying this guy here, I'm going to use the Chinese retailer just for both prices. So for MPU, it comes in at $85. The Maketoys comes in at $135. So we're going to cost over to MPU. And the final category here is the Members' Choice category, where I ask my members which one they prefer, just based on their own personal preferences and no other factors. And you can see that the MPU is going to win the Members' Choice category. So final thoughts on the comparison. You can see the score, and MPU is going to win this one, which doesn't surprise me. But what did surprise me is how accurate that Maketoys actually really is in both the robot and vehicle modes. I actually thought this was pretty close, but once I kind of studied and looked, this definitely looks more like a toy style or just kind of its own thing. It's not necessarily perfectly accurate, but I still like this a lot better. And the main reason is the build quality. This thing is plagued with all sorts of annoying issues. The fingers, the detents on the arms, the backpack falling down. It gets annoying when you're messing with it and playing with it. Now, it does look good, and I do think it's originally was a good design, but they've reused this mold, I think, too many times. It's time to move on from this. But it held up. It held up pretty good here with the categories. So, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Dr. Diecast for sending this for the comparison, and we'll see you next time.